Welcome to the kickoff of Flavors of the Forest. Today you'll get a sample of what you can expect in this new and exciting series. My name is Leah Dollar-Olmos and I'm the Global Engagement Coordinator at Rainforest Partnership. Here at Rainforest Partnership, we meet you where you are. So if you're not sure how to connect or engage with the forest, we're here to help. Let's start right in your kitchen. In this session, we'll be showcasing recipes inspired by the forest from chefs and restaurants around the globe, even spotlighting ingredients sourced right from our rainforest. Our first recipe comes from London-based restaurant Amazonico. Amazonico is widely known for celebrating the cultural diversity and gastronomic heritage of the Amazon region. This World Rainforest Day, they've partnered with One Tree Planet and have committed to planting a tree for each guest that dines in at their restaurants in London and Dubai. They've even renamed their signature cocktail from Welcome to the Jungle to Save the Jungle. And we're here to bring that recipe to you. We'll be walking step by step and showing you how to create your own version of this cocktail and so much more. So stay tuned and feel free to pause the video at any time to take a screenshot of the ingredients or the recipe. Enjoy.
Welcome to my kitchen, and welcome to the first ever edition of Flavors of the Forest and our first cocktail segment. I'm Beth Kaplan, Chief Strategy Officer at Rainforest Partnership, but today I'm wearing a different hat, and that's your guest mixologist. Normally, what we'll look forward to is having chefs and bartenders make recipes that they've created for you based on inspiration from the forest. Today, I'm going to fill in for that role using a great cocktail recipe from our World Rainforest Day partner, Amazonico, restaurant based in London, Spain, and Dubai. They've shared a great concept with us, and I'm going to share it with you. So stay tuned as we go through that recipe and a few other ideas for great cocktails inspired by the flavors of the forest. We're going to get started on our first cocktail. As I mentioned, it's coming to us courtesy of our World Rainforest Day partner, Amazonico. And they have created a cocktail called Save the Jungle. We're going to be sharing that recipe with you during the segment and on our Instagram and other social media, so you can catch it there. What's really exciting about the recipe is that it relies on two ingredients that come from Latin America, one of which is the spirit we'll be using today, cachaca. And I'll talk about that a little more in a minute. The other is the fruit-flavored background for this drink, which is a fruit called tamarillo. Now, unfortunately, that's not something we're able to get easily here in the United States. But our friends at Amazonico thought of that, and they made a recommendation for a great substitution. The strawberry. Easily available to everyone. It's going to give us a delightful, summery flavor and a way for us to connect with the forest. Now, I just mentioned that we're going to be using cachaca. It's a spirit you may have heard of and you may not have heard of. It is from Brazil. And it's made from fermented fresh sugarcane. A lot of people who know a little bit about cachaca might say, how is that different from rum? Well, they both are based on sugarcane as the source of the spirit, but cachaca is made with fresh sugarcane, whereas rum is made with products further along in the refined sugar process. An exception to that's rum agricole, but that's a conversation for a whole other day. And we're delighted to have some great cachaca options to bring to you today. One of the things that I can tell you that's happened in that area in the last few years is that it's a lot easier to find. I remember the first time I had a caipirinha, which is one of the Brazilian drinks most famous for its use of cachaça, and I wanted to replicate it at home. And it was a major search to find a bottle of any kind of cachaça, let alone have a choice. While there still isn't anywhere near the variety available to us here that people in Brazil can find available to them, that is growing. And it's growing in two ways. Our first drink is based on silver cachaça, which is younger, unaged, and very clean, fresh taste. It can have sense of the place that it was grown. Every cachaça will have some different notes. The other kind of cachaça, and I have an example of it here, is an aged cachaça. It'll be aged in hardwoods, and the notes of every single one of these will be different based on the type of wood that it was aged in. What's really exciting is going to the store today and seeing there being not just one kind of aged or bold cachaça, but many. And they all have different flavor profiles. It's really fun to explore. The other three key flavor components here are sugar for sweetener. The recipe calls for extra fine. If you don't have it, don't worry. You can either blend some up in your blender to get it to a finer consistency, or in the application we're using it for today, given that this puree we're making is going to sit for a while, it will melt, it will be fine. Don't let not getting it super fine sugar stop you from making this delicious cocktail. We're going to use some limes. And the other ingredient that sets this recipe apart is the star anise. It's a licoricey, warm, has almost notes of cinnamon in it, and it's going to be part of what builds the subtle flavor notes of this cocktail for us. So here I have my strawberry star anise puree, which I made a couple of days ago. And I did that because what we want to be able to do is take the strawberries, the sugar, and the star anise and let them sit together in connecting, flavor extracting from the star anise for about 24 to 36 hours. I also added the juice of one lemon. Give it a little bit of a more balanced acid base. The proportions, and we'll share the specifics for this recipe with you, were about 5 ounces of strawberries, 3 ounces of sugar, 2 star anise. And don't worry if you don't find them whole. Pieces are fine because we're going to strain them out later. I whizzed those up in the blender and put that away so we could extract some of that star anise flavor. One other thing I have to tell you that I did. I'm not one of these people who loves pulp. If you are, use this puree as is. It's going to have little delicate bits of pulp, some of the seeds, and that gives it some character. For me, I like it a little smoother. I poured it through a strainer. It also gave me a chance to pull out the star anise, and I didn't have to do that step separately. So after all of that talk, let's get to mixing. In a cocktail shaker, here, I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of my strawberry star anise puree. It's so good. I'm going to use a spatula to get all of it out. And then I'm going to multitask that so I can stir it up later. I'm going to use an equal amount, 2 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lime juice. And start stirring that and thinning out the syrup. And then I'm going to add 1.5 ounces of silver cachaça. So 2 tablespoons strawberry, 2 tablespoons lime, 1.5 ounces of cachaça. I'm going to mix that all together. Now in a shaker, you'd expect most of the time that I would shake. In this case, I'm not. I'm going to pour. I'm going to go right into a beautiful glass. Again, scrape all of that goodness out of the bottom. I'm going to take some crushed ice. Top that off. In this case, we really actually want the ice to melt a little bit because what it's going to do for us is dilute that syrup just a little bit, dilute the strength of the cachaça a little bit, just to that perfect level of intensity. I think we will add, let's put in a cocktail stir. We can garnish now, have a little bit of fun. Everybody wants to know it's strawberry? Pop in a strawberry on the side. Maybe a little bit of mint and a sprig, a twist of lime. And you can even run that around the edge, get a little bit extra of that lime flavor into the cocktail and drop it in. And there you are. Our version of Amazonico's Save the Jungle with Strawberry. One of the things that I need to tell you about making the puree for this amazing cocktail is when you make it, it makes a lot. One of the things that you can plan to do is make a batch cocktail with it. It's great to make in a large amount. Just be able to pour it out when you're ready. Great for a party as we're going back to having those. The other thing that you can do with that puree is to turn it into a mocktail. There are people who may not want to have alcohol, or they want something that's just bright and refreshing and a little unexpected from those warm notes of anise mingled with the sourness and brightness of the lime and the sweetness of the strawberry. For them, we have another version of that. And so using the same basic ingredients, but swapping out sparkling water or sparkling Italian soda for the cachaca, we get what we're going to call our strawberry lime bubbles. To make that, once again, we're going to use the same proportions of 2 tablespoons of strawberry puree, 2 ounces of fresh lime juice. We're going to stir that up well so we get a good mix. To that, we're going to add just a splash of simple syrup. And you may ask, how much should I add? The question is, how sweet do you like it? Every strawberry has a different level of sweetness. You may even want to adjust the amount of sugar you put into making the puree after the first time you do it because you say it's a little too sweet or not sweet enough. Simple syrup is your friend for making any cocktail or beverage you want to the sweetness you like it, without winding up with all that grit of just trying to add raw sugar at the end. So we're going to add just a splash of simple to this. There we go. Stir that in. And we're going to pour it into our serving glass. I'm going to take our sparkling water, gently add it. I don't want to stir too vigorously because I don't want to lose all the bubbles in the carbonation when I do that, because otherwise it's not sparkling. Once again, add some ice carefully so we don't fizz too far out the top. And we have another strawberry for garnish. You could use a lime wheel. I'm going to add some mint. We have a little mint flower on that and a twist of lime. If we twist it, we activate the oils. We get a little more lime into our beverage. And with that, we'll pop in a straw. And there we are. Strawberry lime bubbles, courtesy of the great ideas coming from Amazon.co. Options that Amazon.co shared with us was the suggestion to use passion fruit in the cocktail. Well, rather than just make a duplication of that recipe, I took their inspiration with passion fruit and created a couple of simple cocktails that you can make around that. Passion fruit is an amazing, bright, summery flavored fruit. It's like sunshine on your tongue. It's naturally very tart, so you'll need to add a sweetener of some sort when you use it. But when you do, it's magic in your glass or in your food, wherever you use it. It is like having sunlight on your taste buds in the best possible way. This is passion fruit, or at least it's one of the varieties of passion fruit. These little fruits, they're a little bit hard on the outside when you hold them, and that's because they have a very thick exterior peel and shell. When you cut one open, this is what it looks like inside. And yes, that sunshine is revealed. It's pulp and juice tied together. What you need to do then is scoop it out, and when you do, you've got pulp and seeds in here. It's a little bit complicated to take this and turn it into juice. And it's also sometimes hard to find passion fruits fresh locally. I'm very lucky one of my local stores does. They don't have it all the time. And that's why it's great that there are different alternatives that we can use to still get the taste of passion fruit and not have to try and hunt down these fresh fruits and go through the extraction of the seeds. One of the options is frozen pulp. There are several companies out there that make frozen pulp. It stores in your freezer, scrape out the amount you want. Some of them even come in individual packets of a couple of ounces. Let it melt, add a little sugar, let it sit in your fridge. When you want it for a cocktail, it's right there for you. There's one other option, and that's what we're going to use next, and that is passion fruit syrup. We're going to use the frozen next. But another option is passion fruit syrup. It's already combined with the sugar. It is a little sweetened, so you don't need to use as much citrus. You don't have to worry about adding extra sweetener to it, unless you're doing it for balance. There are several good brands out there. Find them, taste them, find the one you like. They store and keep in your fridge, and you have passion fruit whenever you want it. So let's go into this next cocktail, and it's what I'm calling Forest Love. It's based on, again, another cachaça. This one is an aged cachaça. It's was aged in 2 woods, and it's got a complex flavor profile that's got like some notes of vanilla, a little caramel, and more. And it's going to pair very nicely with the brightness of the passion fruit. In this recipe, we're going to use lemon rather than lime. I find that there's really a beautiful affinity between the 2 fruits, and it's my preference over lime. If you like lime better, or if that's what it's easier for you to get, make the cocktail. Use lime. Definitely go forward with that. But this is my preference. So those are the key ingredients in this cocktail. I'm going to grab my shaker, and I'm going to start with the frozen puree. This is about an ounce. Get all of that goodness out of there. It's just too tasty to leave behind. Going to add an equal amount of lemon juice. I'm going to add some simple syrup. This is simple syrup made from turbinado sugar. I want to echo those rich caramely notes that are in the cachaça. I'm not going to add too much, maybe just around a teaspoon. And again, the beauty of this is when you make it, if it's not sweet enough, add a few more drops. It mixes effortlessly into your cocktail. And then finally, an ounce and a half of the aged cachaça. All right, I'm going to take some whole ice cubes, just regular refrigerator ice cubes for this. I want to chill this down really quickly before I put it over shaved ice in my glass. There we go. I'm going to pour that in. I haven't let it dilute too much because it was a really quick shake. I'm going to add some crushed ice. Keep that nice and cold. And in this case, I'm going to take a lemon twist, echoing the lemon in there, that scent of sunshine, and let's have a lizard to celebrate our cocktail. There it is. I hope you enjoyed it. Now we're ready to make our last cocktail of the day. It's also based on passion fruit, and it's for people who want something a little bit lighter. They don't necessarily want all the strength of the full spirit for a cocktail, but they'd like to enjoy something based on wine. And so today we're going to do a cocktail using sparkling wine, and it's called the Passion Spritz. So I'm going to take just about an ounce of the passion fruit puree. That's hard to say all these many times. So we get all of that out. We add an equal amount of fresh squeezed lemon, because again, there's that beautiful affinity between the two. I've got a little bit, about a 1/4 ounce of orange liqueur. I find it just rounds out the flavor of the entire cocktail. You can use whatever orange liqueurs in your bar. I'm using a dry curacao. It happens to be my favorite, but any of them will work beautifully. Don't buy a bottle of specialized orange just to make this drink. I already know that it's going to be a little bit more tart than I want to try because of how much lemon I'm adding to this. So I'm adding a little bit of simple syrup. This time it's the classic based on straight household granulated sugar. And I'm using the top of the cocktail shaker. It's an easy way to just add, use a little measuring without having to get something else messy. You're already going to get it because you're going to shake this cocktail. Okay, I've stirred. I'm going to add some ice cubes. So again, we're going to want to get this chilled down. Quick chill, not too diluted. Right into the glass. Look at that color. It is like the sun on a beautiful summer day. Now we take our sparkler, open it up, pour in 2 to 3 ounces. Let's add just a couple of large ice cubes. We want it to stay cold. We don't necessarily want it to do some dilution the way we were using the shaved ice before. Let's just do a gentle stir to mix through. Again, don't want to lose too many of those bubbles. And I'll taste this one with you. Oh, that's a beautiful, delightful, refreshing beverage. Here's to you. Thank you so much for joining us on this first installment of Flavors of the Forest. We look forward to spending time with you, our amazing chefs, and the forest in the months to come. Thank you for finding ways to bring the flavor of the forest into your life.
Thanks again for joining our first installment of Flavors of the Forest. Make sure to follow our social media for updates on what's coming next, and be sure to follow our partner, Amazonico London. We're excited to see you again, and we hope you enjoyed creating your own flavor of the forest. Here's a sneak peek of what's coming next.
With Aroma Ecuador, you've managed to do lots of different things. You've been able to reach people in a very different way, right? It's sort of closing the loop because on the one hand, you were working directly with communities and co-ops that were actually producing the cacao and then actually getting them to the people who are turning it into chocolate and whatever other derivatives of cacao there are. But now with Aroma Ecuador, you've got sort of both the scientific base, you've got the community side, you know a lot about where cacao comes from, about aromas, from very specifically about different regions, you know all that. But then you also know how to sell.
Yes. I will say now in the 25 years, most of the production of Ecuador and the technology of Ecuador, we made it. We made the technology like NGO to run in the country. When we started, there was no more than 60,000 tons yearly selling to the world. Now we're selling 300,000 tons. This is a lot. That means we use only 1%. That means we are giving the chocolate for United States, for Europe, for Mexico, for Colombia. Or cocoa goes there. Then it's very important for everybody to protect that forest, because in that forest is the cocoa, and the DNA or all the genetic pool is here in that forest, and the combination of the forest make that special chocolate that everybody takes maybe all days.
Yes.
You go to the store, when you buy that chocolate, it's cacao from Ecuador, most of them, because it's very important for us to make that chocolate. That's why it's so important.
Bueno, ahora vamos a preparar el mejor café del mundo. Soy José Valdivieso de Aroma Ecuador y vamos a preparar un café espectacular. Esto viene del noroccidente de Pichincha. El noroccidente de Pichincha es un sitio muy importante del Ecuador, ya que es una reserva de la biosfera, en la cual ayuda a todo el planeta. Tiene una biodiversidad realmente increíble, y en este sector la gente vive de café por la altura. Entonces, con la altura hace un captura, un aradio de primerísima calidad, en la cual está enamorando al mundo entero. Aroma Ecuador se especializa en este café, y ahora vamos a preparar, vamos a hacer un expreso para que lo vean qué tal sale. Y aquí vamos a hacer un expreso. Vamos a coger aquí, ya este aparatito que vamos a exprimirlo. Vamos a poner 245 gramos de café, ¿ya? lo vamos a sostener, luego de los 145 gramos de café, vamos a poner una piecita aquí y lo vamos a moldear. Lo vamos a moldear, ¿ya? No le vamos a apretar, solamente le vamos a moldear. Lo vamos a moldear para que sea uniforme la extracción del café. Luego le vamos a poner en el extractor, la cual vamos a tener una temperatura de más de 120 grados, vamos a tener 4 bares de presión y 1.5 bares. De esa manera vamos a poder extraer el café. Esto es un expreso, es para una porción. Vamos a sacar aproximadamente el 80% del café con esta presión y esta temperatura. Luego estamos sacando el café, ya lo podemos ver perfectamente cómo va saliendo. Ya tiene la espuma perfecta. Eso te da que es un café prácticamente perfecto, ¿no? Ya hemos terminado, ya, y aquí está. Tenemos un café realmente excepcional, una espuma natural del café increíble. Bueno, y el sabor, ¿no? Entonces, aroma floral, frutal de los bosques. Ahí están los osos de anteojos. Y cuando realmente lo tomas, estás tomando naturaleza, ¿no? Y les invito a todos que vayan, Mindo, es los sitios más bellos del mundo. Todo este sector de noroccidente es uno de los últimos chocos del planeta que estamos tratando de protegerle y darle una forma de vida a la gente a través de un café fantástico. Salud.
Hello, and welcome to the Forest of New York. My name is Cameron Plesh, and I'm the head of North America for the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, more commonly known as the RSPO. Many of you may know a lot about palm oil and the harm it can potentially have to tropical rainforests around the world if it's not grown, produced, or sourced sustainably. Many of you may also know that palm oil is in roughly 50% of the products found at the supermarket and is likely in some of the ingredients used in some of the food that you consume daily. The RSPO is an international nonprofit working to transform the palm oil industry to put an end to deforestation, human rights abuses, labor abuses, and wildlife harm. If you want to learn more about the work of the RSPO and how you can ensure that you are supporting the production of sustainable palm oil and using products that are sourcing sustainable palm oil, you can look for the RSPO label on packaging, or you can also join us for a deeper dive during an upcoming session of Flavors of the Forest. So stay tuned for more.
So this is Cacao Fruit, and they're making the chocolate. But let's come and have a look at this. So some of these are not very good. You can tell this one, the tree may not be doing as well. Right here, here's a tree that's doing well. Un momentito, Hilda.
Ah?
And there is one that Hilda's got.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that when they eat chocolate, that it actually comes from this fruit. And the cacao fruit is very, very tasty. And people often ask, what does it taste like? And it's not sweet, sour, it's both. And it's pulpy, but it's not like any other fruit. Entonces, por favor. But you never get to eat the fruit, because the seeds are far more valuable, and they get fermented and then. And so here you can take this off, and you can see there's a lot of seeds, and then es más bueno de otro.
Ya, el otro estaba más maduro, está un poco.
Which one's not bad?